Call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, thank you for attending the meeting tonight. Record of council attendance, please.
Mr. Mayor, we have 6 council members present. Councilmember Wendell will be arriving late.
Thank you. Action to approve the agenda. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Specker,
Aye.
Tiltonburn,
Aye.
Avery,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Duran. Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, open forum. Is there a member of the public who wishes to address the council on an item not listed on tonight's agenda? Please state your name, Jeanette.
Jeanette Gibbons, Dirdall Drive, and I do have some hard copies. And my presentation may take a little bit more than 3 minutes, given the handouts, and I would appreciate your attention while I cover this information as quickly as possible. The document I placed in your hand is one that I sent to you via email. I don't know if you've received it, looked at it, but I'm providing you a hard copy tonight. And that same document I sent to our State Attorney General, Mark Vargo, who was recently appointed by Governor Kristi Noem. And what brings this information up to the forefront again, dealing with the continuing national health emergency of COVID, which should have ended on July 15th and was recently extended to last until October 13th. And yet, going back historically here in our own state, we ended our state emergency at the end of June 2021. And yet here we are, a year plus later, our nation is still under emergency, and I fail to see it. Of course, I fail to see a lot of things that have happened over the last 2 years. But I will quickly mention, too, that the World Health Organization on Saturday, July 23rd, decided to declare monkeypox a world health emergency. That would include USA, would include South Dakota, would include Brookings, South Dakota. And again, if we look at the number of cases of what they're using to base that emergency on, it's not even laughable. Well, it is laughable. But please do your research. I encourage everyone to do their research. I think we're here in large part because we haven't been informed properly. And I understand everyone is busy. And I have had the luxury of time to research many, many topics, health-related and otherwise. So I want to read from my letter to Attorney General Vargo, and I won't read all of it, but there are some key points here. My opening paragraph: I am requesting your services in upholding your oath of office to protect and defend our republic and we the people whom you represent. Numerous crimes associated with the COVID-19 national health emergency have been committed and continue to this day. Included with my letter is a proposed indictment, the one that I place in your hands, written by Dr. David E. Martin, PhD, founder and chairman of MCAM Incorporated. Defendants that are named in that proposed indictment, and I'll just list a few names here that people will recognize: Dr. Anthony Fauci, the FDA, the CDC, the NIAID, Moderna, Pfizer, and there are others. The violations of federal laws are noted and explained in the proposed indictment. In my letter to Attorney General Vargo, I listed them. He has 8 counts. And again, I'll just pick out a few of these and won't read all the code numbers. Acts of domestic terrorism resulting in death of American citizens. Conspiring to commit acts of terrorism. Conspiring to criminal commercial activity. Funding and creating a biological weapon. Market manipulation and allocation. Lying to Congress. Interlocking directorates. And seditious conspiracy. So in the document in your hands now and sent to you, it describes those charges and describes how they have violated and committed those charges. The unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness sanctioned by our Creator have been impeded. The true role of government, which includes your office and your position as a sworn officer of our Constitution, is to protect these rights. I've disseminated this letter to several people already, now including yourselves. I do have, Mayor Niemeyer, your oath of office in my hands. And again, we stood here and said the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of this meeting. We pledged our allegiance to this republic. In your oath of office, you have pledged you have solemnly sworn to support the Constitution of the United States and this state and the Brookings City Charter, included in our Constitution, included in our Bill of Rights. You are to protect all of us, and you are sworn to do that. Now, if you choose not to, if you choose to ignore our rights, which definitely happened throughout the COVID emergency, the mandates, the masks, the vaccines, all of that was able to occur under emergency, an emergency that truly did not exist, an emergency that was created, that was premeditated, and it needs to stop before we roll into a monkeypox emergency. I'm asking you to uphold your oath of office. If our elected officials choose not to uphold their oath of office, then we do have other recourse. We can go after bonds. We, the people, can cite our own grievances and put a stack of papers in front of any and all of you and tell you what needs to be done to correct the situation. I'm asking you to step forward and do that yourselves. To those that have been involved, a public apology would be a good place to start. If it's due to lack of
Mayor,
information.
I'd like to call for a point of order. The speaker's gone over 2 times.
Yeah, you've gone. Thank you, and we acknowledge your
I'm
comments.
asking you to uphold your oath of office.
Is there anyone else that would like to use open forum at this moment? Seeing none, consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be removed on the consent agenda? Seeing none, entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments, questions? Please call the roll.
Specker.
Aye.
Tiltonburn.
Aye.
Avery.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Duran. Aye. Niemeyer.
Aye. Motion passes. Then we go on to presentations and reports. American Brookings Disability Awareness Committee, want to come forward? Okay. Mayoral proclamation. Whereas the was passed in July 26, 1990, as the first comprehensive declaration of equality for disabled people and protects rights in all aspects of employment, in accessing public services, and guaranteeing access to private establishments. And whereas the goals of the community align with providing disabled people with the opportunities and support to achieve full integration and inclusion in society in an individualized manner. And whereas disability is a natural part of the human experience that does not diminish the right to enjoy the opportunity to live independently, enjoy self-determination, make choices, contribute to society, and experience full integration and inclusion with necessary services and support. Now therefore be resolved, I, Brookings do hereby proclaim July 26, 2022 as Americans with Disabilities Act 32nd Anniversary Day, and call upon the people of Brookings to recognize and celebrate the progress that's been made by reaffirming the principles of equality and inclusion and recommitting our efforts to reach full ADA compliance for disabled people in the city of Brookings. Also, to continue advocating for full inclusion and equity of individuals with disabilities in all aspects of society.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Opie. Thank you, Council. And thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. The pathway to legal action actually began in 1961 when ANSI, which is the American National Standards Institute, they presented the first criteria for accessibility as a national standard. So this was well in advance of 1990. And then in 1974, HUD sponsored additional research, which then spurns the Fair Housing Accessibility Guidelines as an offshoot of that. And then in 1990, we did have the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which brings us here today, of course. And then in as late as 2010, the ADA accessibility guidelines became the ADA standards for accessible design, and here we are today in 2022. So it's been 1961 to today, and I had to add that up. That's 61 years, I think, of integration, and it's been great because the ADA still remains one of the most honored and less debated acts in recent history. This year, our committee is looking into the debate of person-first language versus identifier-first language. Many disability communities embrace identifier-first language, and this is something we're going to be talking about, and we look forward to public comments as well as they come in as people see fit. But in reality, the ADA has allowed us to shift our attention to language, and it's taken away a lot of the harder topics of access to employment, access to facilities, and barrier removal. And so we ask that Brookings continue to look for ways in which its private communities and business owners can continue to remove barriers in the ways that they can.
Thank you all for coming and allowing us this opportunity for this proclamation. ADA is a civil rights act. It basically gave disabled people, tries to give equal rights. But honestly, ADA is a bare minimum requirement. So if we're just looking at ADA compliance, it means that we're saying that if there was a lesser compliance, we would follow that instead. So we need to look beyond ADA. ADA is a starting point. We need to look past that. It's about, access isn't about ADA, it's about attitude. And we all need to work on the attitude to do better, to be inclusive of everyone. And that's really important, and that's what we should be talking about. And looking at it from the perspective, what if it was you? What if you were the one who needed access, who saw those steps as a mountain that there was no way you were going to climb without help? What if that was you? What would you think would be adequate? Look at it from that perspective. And I need to add, from a very personal perspective, this is not the Disability Awareness Committee, this is me, Mark Sternhagen. We are approaching the school season. For the love of your children, get them vaccinated. Your child could end up like me, and if so, it's on you. Polio is in this country again. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Presentation of the 2021 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report and Audit. Please state your name. I know you're from Ide Bailey, but you said your name earlier and I can't remember it. I apologize.
No problem. I am Jamie Fay, and you are absolutely correct. I am from Ide Bailey. I'm the numbers person, so we're going to talk about numbers. I'm going to keep it pretty high level. We're going to try to talk about some graphs, some colors, some. The full annual comprehensive financial report is 187 pages. It's very standards driven. There's not a lot of comparative information in there. So what we've done tonight is put together a PowerPoint that has some of that information for you. So hopefully you find it helpful. My contact information is in the back of the PowerPoint. So if you have any questions, let me know. I am stepping in for the engagement partner. Brian Stavanger is unavailable tonight, so I am stepping in for him for the presentation. But both of our contact information is in there as well. So when we first talk about audit, we say, I'm an auditor, or I do financial statement audit. People have kind of a little bit of a confused look on their face. And I've gotten the question like, oh, well, you can see my taxes then, or you know how much I make. So we like to talk a little bit about what an audit is, what we do, what the standards are that we're following. So our responsibility as auditors in the standards is that we make sure that this book is put together that is materially accurate and follows the standards. So government auditing standards is what we follow. We obtain reasonable assurance that everything is in there right, which means we are testing things on a test basis. We don't look at 100% of things. If we did, we would just be a member of your staff at that point. So we might test 40 transactions and then say, okay, we'll do some calculations to decide, should we have this balance be here or there? Does it meet that expectation? What does that look like? So between all of those procedures, we come to a place where we can give an opinion on the financial statements to say, okay, are they materially accurate or not? So we test things on test basis. We have some discussions with management. A lot of times we'll call someone in another department or somebody from the council and just have some conversations, talk about the risks. Every entity has different levels of risk, where those might be. So we try to focus our procedures on where are those risks, where should we be focusing our time and making sure that we're looking at the things that we should be. Now, one caveat with this is the city gets a financial statement audit, and then there is a separate audit. They call it the single audit or the federal audit over just the federal dollars. That single audit piece is still ongoing. There is a dedicated team in Ide Bailey that deals with the provider relief fund, so they're working on that piece. It's very specific guidance. They're the experts, so we let them do that. They're working through that, aiming to get that issued in the middle of September, and then the finance department will bring that to you for the results. So our audit timeline, we started planning and pre-work kind of on the back end in our world, November through April. So that looks like getting some of our structure of our work papers set up, having some initial conversations with the city. This was the first year we were auditors, so there was some initial setup to do there. So we did that in that time. Year-end testing happened in May and June. So we were on site the week of May 9th, but with remote technology, we were doing some of our field work kind of all through that timeline. And then we issued the report on June 27th. And getting there. So going forward, we're looking at if we can move that timeline up, because through the process, we found that the city was very prepared. Everything looked great when we got it. So we're going to look at moving that up potentially next year, but got it issued on the 27th. So then the big question, okay, you came, you audited, what were your results? What did you find? So when we talk about audit results, like I said before, the opinion is what we are giving. So you want to get a unmodified opinion. It's also dubbed a clean opinion. That's what you want. That is what the city received for their financial statements. That basically is our opinion saying, yep, it looks like it is professional, based on our professional opinion, everything's materially accurate, so on and so forth. So that's great news. The second kind of piece that goes along with it is, okay, we got a clean opinion. Did you have any findings? Because you can get findings with a clean opinion. The city got no material weaknesses and no significant deficiencies, which is great news. You didn't have any in 2020 either, so that's what you've had in the past. So now we're going to look at numbers and colors and graphs. The first one is cash and investments. So the first graph right here is cash. So this is the cash for the overall city. This does not include investments or restricted cash. And it's broken down by the proprietary type funds and then the governmental type funds. Proprietary funds are things like the health system, BMU, and then like liquor, airport, golf, those types. So the next graph is liquidity. So this really is looking at kind of your cash on hand to those things that you need to pay for. So you can see you were just below 4.5. Most governments stay above a 2.0 for this ratio, so you can see you're right there. And you can see it kind of dipped a little bit in 2019. That has a lot more to do with the investment balances than the debt balances, quite frankly. So we'll look at the investment balances on the next page. So then this page is looking at total cash and investments. We already looked at that cash piece. Here's the cash and investments together. You can see they're just kind of a little bit on an upward trend. This isn't to say they need to be in a certain place. It's just showing you the 10-year comparison to where the city's been. So then digging into the details, the first kind of big fund of the city is called the general fund. That's where kind of all the things go that aren't parsed out to all the other pieces. So that's the fund that we like to focus on and talk about. So first off is the revenues for the general fund. We have them listed here. They're broken out into these big categories. The one thing that we got some notes from the finance department. So the one thing I wanted to point out is there is a little bit of a decrease in the intergovernmental from 2020 to 2021. You can see there was quite a big jump from 19 to 20. That's mainly those COVID funds that were received. There was ARPA funding received in 2021, but that wasn't spent. So that's not reflected here because that's, for accounting purposes, that's deferred to next year or whenever it's spent. So it's not in here. So that's the significant change there. And then expenditures, what did the city have as an outflow in their general fund? You can see the different categories here: capital outlay, general government, public safety, all of those. There wasn't a lot of significant changes here. A little bit of a difference in the culture and rec, again, mainly driven by that COVID activity. The revenues just fluctuated a little bit there. I work exclusively in the government world, so I've seen a lot of the different fluctuations with COVID, and I would say this is right in line with what I've seen other places too. So that was revenues and expenditures. At the end of the day, that comes down to a bottom line number for the general fund, which is what we call the fund balance. So that's kind of the remaining dollars. So you want to have a positive fund balance to contribute to your favorable bond rating. If you're looking to go out for some debt, you can get some investment income off of there. And then probably most importantly is it gives you a little bit of a cushion. That way, if something happens, there's a catastrophic event, there is FEMA sometimes is a little slow to get money, so you got to cover some expenses. If there's a natural tragedy, you can handle those as well with your fund balance. So there's different categories when it comes to the fund balance. So non-spendable, restricted, they're just listed here. I'm not going to get into the minutia of what they are, but I mainly just wanted to point out and say there is some categories in here. I know the city's really good about using their committed and assigned numbers. The unassigned number is the one that a lot of times we'll analyze when it comes to like, where are you at with your fund balance, which is what we'll look at in the next page as well. So here's the numbers, here's the colors. So these are the total fund balances. You can see it's broken out into those categories. There is a few things to point out here. There's a decrease in the unassigned from 2020 to 2021. There was the use of the City Council Priority Projects Fund. During 2021, $1.4 million was transferred to the CIP Fund for building. R&M, $522,000 was contributed to the Public Safety Center Capital Project Fund. There was an increase in the restricted number because of the receipt of those ARPA funds. That's the federal dollars that haven't been spent yet. So that's sitting right here in this restricted fund balance saying, hey, we've got it in here, we're going to spend it. All right. The next way to look at fund balance is it looks like big dollars. How do you break that down compared to where you're at? So you can see the way that we like to analyze it is fund balance as a percentage of expenditures. So you were at about 53.3% for 2021. There was a drop there from 2020, just with decreasing the increased expenditures to the pre-pandemic levels, some different activities. Typically, we see cities that have either 50% or greater as their target. So you're at that. What 53% means is that you have just over 6 months of operating expenditures in your fund balance at this point. So then the one other fund we wanted to highlight is the second penny sales and use tax fund, which you are all aware of what that is. So this is the same look and feel. Here's revenues for that fund. Really just pointing out it's kind of in an upward trend. The 2019 other, there's a little bit of a blue category there that sticks out a little bit like a sore thumb. That's the Surface Transportation Program grant funds that were recognized, and then those were used to pay for the first phase of the 22nd Avenue Improvements Project. So that is the revenues for that fund. And then coming down to the fund balances, this is what the fund balance in that fund looked like. There was an increase from 19 to 20 due to COVID-related budget cuts for capital projects. And then 2021, really that was a supply chain issue pushing back some projects. So you'll see some projects being paid for in 2022 or whenever those supply chain issues kind of come full circle and come back. The other item we want to highlight is part of the first year procedures that we did is we did the financial statement audit, and then we also had this thing called payroll data analytics. That was something that we like to add on to the first year as kind of a little bit of, hey, let me show you what else we can do here at Eide Bailly. So we have a data analytics group, and I am not the expert in this. I don't dig into big data or any of that, but basically what they do is they dive really deep into the minutia of the details, and they get a dump of all the payroll data, and they say, okay, let's look at what are the normal compared to what are the outliers in different things like total pay analysis, hours, deductions for employees, really what are those main key points, and let's show you what the outliers are from kind of the norm in those categories. So we had a meeting, we talked about this on July 12th with the finance group, so they got a good debrief in there. There was no significant anomalies noted, meaning there was really nothing that we came to them and we were like, hey, you need to do this immediately. But they've got that report and they're going to start digging into the details of that. So if you have any questions there, they would be the ones that have that detail. And then really the kind of looking forward to the forefront, a lot of people think that governments are, the standards are there, the standards are set, you can kind of keep rolling with what you have. There's constant changes in government funding, in requirements. There's new federal grant programs coming with the ARPA fund, the American Rescue Plan Act, different federal funding that comes through. With each layer of federal funding comes a whole slew of compliance requirements. I think the latest compliance supplement was like 2,500 pages. So there's just a lot of requirements to follow there. The statements that dictate what's in the financial statements are called GASB statements. There's 2 new ones coming out. One for leases, one for essentially software, leases for software. Those are significant lifts on the finance team to really dig into the details, get those into the financial statements, make sure they're done right. And they learn about all that stuff through webinars and different things, and we're of access to them all year long. So if they have any questions, they can definitely let us know. But all that to say, your finance group has a lot on their plate and it doesn't ever get any less. So they're doing a great job with that. So with that, any questions on anything in here, or maybe just something had a question?
Councilmember Hilton Byrne.
Thank you very much for presenting this tonight. We appreciate you doing the audit, and of course, we know we have a great finance team, and so kind of expected a good report like the one you provided. My question is on the payroll data analytics piece. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to know if when you look at that, does that take into account, it says total pay analysis, does that take into account things like benefits and things of that nature as well?
Yes, there is some analysis in there. There's a ton of data that comes with that. So they've got the full report if you wanted to take a look at it too.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
Information is in there. Actually, Brent did a great job and we were happy to work with them, so thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay, we don't have any contracts or change orders this evening. Item 8, ordinances, first readings. Item 8A, introduction and first reading on ordinance 22-027, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Brookings and pertaining to residence R3 apartment district for the purpose of administration of the zoning ordinance. Mike Struck, our Community Development Director.
Mayor and members of the council. The ordinance before you tonight is an amendment to our existing zoning code for the R3 apartment district. There's three main components of this particular ordinance amendment. The first component is just amending the intent language associated with it at the very beginning. We found with recent development trends, the amendments before you tonight were causing us a few problems, and projects weren't being able to be achieved. So the biggest thing that we looked at here is just eliminating the per unit density. These ordinances haven't been updated in quite some time. The development trends that we're seeing is, especially in the multifamily projects, they're going with a lot of efficiencies in one-bedroom apartments. You're not seeing the twos, the threes, the four-bedroom units. However, our ordinance has a per unit density that says you have to have so many square feet of lot area per unit, and it just isn't really applicable anymore. We've seen projects that have met all the setbacks, all the landscaping requirements, all the parking requirements, but they couldn't meet the per unit density requirement, but they could meet everything else in our regulations, and we had to turn them down. So we felt this was an opportunity, if we want to look at building additional capacity for housing units in our community, that this is one thing that we should look at. Is the per unit density applicable anymore? And so on the overhead, you can see some of the changes, looking at eliminating the per unit density. Additionally, we're looking at changing or increasing the maximum height. Right now in the R3 district, maximum height of a structure is 45 feet. This also causes some issues in the construction industry. What we've been seeing projects is we're going away from the 8-foot interior ceiling finished height. Many of them are going at a minimum 9 feet, and some are even going with 10-foot finished ceiling heights. When you start to look at a potential of a 4-story building and your 2-foot floor trusses in between to utilize for the HVAC system, when you add it all up, they're getting over the 45-foot height requirement, and then they're going to our Board of Adjustment to ask for a variance. And so we felt like if we want to utilize our existing resources in the community, be efficient with the land, this is an area that we could look at to help encourage building up and, would help build additional capacity for housing units in the community. The third item is we have a regulation that with our side yard setback, that if you are 3 or more stories in height, your side yard setback increases from 7 feet to 10 feet. Well, we have conflicting language because in our buffer yard ordinance requirement, if you are an R3 zone property and you abut any residential zone district, the buffer yards would kick in, and if you're over 30 feet in height, you go to a type B or F buffer yard, which for a type B, it would require a minimum of 15 feet from the residential district boundary line to the parking lot, or 25 feet from the property line to a structure. So it actually would be even greater than what that 10-foot piece would be. And then in addition, we have tables within our zoning ordinance. And so you can see the areas on the screen that are crossed out, those would be eliminated from the ordinance. It would eliminate the maximum of 24 dwelling units per acre. And then it also eliminates that side yard setback going to 10 feet. Instead, the buffer yards would come into play, and then we would increase the maximum height to 60 feet instead of 45 feet. This does come to you with a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission, the Development Review Team, and staff, both support. And you may have.
Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, does the council have any questions or comments? Okay, on to the next one. Item 8B, introduction and first reading on ordinance 22-028, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Brookings pertaining to a residence R3A apartment, mobile homes, manufactured housing district for the purpose of administration of the zoning ordinance. Mike will also present this item.
Thank you, Mayor. And exact same repeat of what we just discussed. It's just the R3A zoning district. All the changes would be the same as what we previously discussed in the R3. The main difference between the R3 and R3A district is the R3A is catered to multifamily and manufactured home parks, but same thing as far as eliminating the per unit density, increasing the maximum height, and then the side yard setback. If you have a structure over 30 feet, it would defer to the buffer yards instead of requiring it increase from 7 to 10 feet. So also comes with a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission, and the Development Review Team and staff support the amendment request, and I'd stand for any questions you may have.
Any public hearing or any public comment on this item? Comments or questions from council? Item 9A, public hearing and action on an initial development plan for Lot 2 on Block 13 of Morningside Addition. Mike will present this item for us also.
Members, this is an initial development plan as part of a planned development district that had come to you previously through a rezoning request. At that particular time, the rezoning request was approved. However, the initial development plan was deferred back to the Planning Commission with some suggestions on how to rework that plan. This is located near the intersection of Yorkshire Drive, and it'll be on the west side of 22nd Avenue. The applicant listened to the comments from the council, worked with staff. This is the original concept that was proposed in February of 2022. And you can see here, there's been significant changes. They brought the building closer to 22nd Avenue. They did wrap a drive-through around the south and east sides of the building. It would enter back out onto 22nd Avenue. They slid the parking to the west of the building. It's a commercial area with 4 suites in there. They meet all the buffer yard requirements on the west and south. The Planning Commission did approve back in February, and likewise again in July, to decrease the buffer yard on the north side that's adjacent to the church's parking lot. They're actually acquiring, the applicant is in the process of acquiring the property from the church, so the church is well aware of everything. But with that, it is part of an initial development plan. If this site plan is approved, they're actually working towards the process of getting their final development plan approved through the Planning Commission, and that could potentially happen yet in August.
Thanks, Mike. Open the public hearing on this item. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, entertain a motion to approve. Oh. Okay, please.
Matthew Weiss, 415 21st Avenue in Brookings, architect for Design Art Group and representative for the developer Seth Scogan, who is also here. I don't know if I need to add anything more than the staff report already indicates. I'll just be here for questions as you see fit.
Thank you. Are
So moved.
there any council questions or comments? I like the revision. It looks good.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Nick?
Thank you, Mayor. I would just note that property that's either been redeveloped, enhanced, or built new throughout the community that are along these commercial corridors, and I think we're starting to see the intention behind some of this planning come to life. And I've heard a number of comments, in particular some development on 6th Street. Folks have recognized some differences in the way those commercial structures have come up and been impressed. And so I want to thank the applicant, staff, and the review team for getting us to this point. I know that it was laborious and there were some stops and starts, but I think the end result we're already seeing is really positive throughout the community and the commercial corridors throughout the community. And I'm excited to see this one come through as well. So thank you.
Questions? Please call the roll.
Tilden Burn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Avery,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Duran,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Specker,
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 9B, public hearing and action on a commercial corridor design review, Block 1 of Northern Plains Edition. Mike Struck will present this item.
This is a commercial corridor design review project. It's located along Main Avenue South. The staff and the development review team have been working with the applicant for several months on this particular review. Thank you. To the site plan there, we'll just point out a few of the high points here. This is the first building. It's going to be the very south building. They're proposing an additional block 2. That's a future project that would occur. But the main building, it does meet our guidelines for the commercial corridor design review overlay. It does meet the minimum 20% glazing along Main Avenue South. The landscape plan has not been updated to reflect. There's some miscommunication through the process. They actually had over-designed their parking lot. And so as we worked through the development review team, we eliminated a portion of the east parking lot, and that'll be converted to green space. And then as additional parking demands are added in the future, they can certainly add on to that parking lot, or if the building expands. But the landscaping plan does show the foundation plantings around the perimeter of the building. The parking meets the requirements. There will be some enhanced tree plantings along the south portion of the building and fitted in where needed. There's also in your packet was some of the architectural details that are shown. So it does show variations in color, shows some of the variations in the roof lines, break up in materials that help break up that facade of the building. And so it's just another good project that the developer's been willing to work with staff to get it to this point in time. With that, I guess I would stand for any questions you may have. The developer is in attendance if you have any specific questions. Assist in answering those.
Thank you, Mike. Open the public hearing on this item. Is there any? Seeing none, enter a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Does the council have any questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Wendell,
Aye.
Avery,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Duran. Aye. Niemeyer,
Aye.
Specker,
Aye.
Tilton Burn.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. Item 9C, public hearing and action on ordinance 22-026, an ordinance amending section 16F of ordinance 21-028 and pertaining to prohibited locations for licensing as medical cannabis establishments in the city of Brookings. Mike will present this item for us.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Ordinance amendment before you tonight is some clarification language on the medical licensing portion. In summary, down to is we feel that medical cannabis facilities are appropriate to have in a mixed use type building where you have that combination of commercial and residential. We do not feel it's appropriate to be able to have them located within the dwelling unit itself, but in the overall structure, and this is really the language that would clean that up. And so we have had a few projects that have been interested in locating in mixed use. They meet all the buffer yard requirements from schools, churches, and such. It just so happened is there's some language in here that presented a hang up, and so we felt that the language before you is an appropriate clarification, and I'd stand for any questions you may have.
All right. Steve, do you have anything to add to that? Okay. Open the public hearing on this item. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, public hearing is now closed. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Does the council have any questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Avery,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Duran. Aye. Niemeyer,
Aye.
Specker,
Aye.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Wendell.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 9D, public hearing and action on a request to transfer an on-off sale malt license for Old Sanctuary to Rabbit Rentals, LLC. Daniel Biefeld, owner, from Old Sanctuary Associates. Dennis Biefeld, owner. 928 4th Street, legal description, Lot 1 and east 23 feet of Lot 2, Block 5, Skinner's Second Edition. Bonnie Foster, our city clerk, will present this item.
Mayor, council members, and members of the public, Daniel Bielfeldt is in the process of purchasing Old Sanctuary, both the buildings and the business, from Dennis Bielfeldt. The action in front of you tonight covers the next 3 agenda items. There's a transfer of the malt license, there's a new wine operating agreement, and then action on the alcohol agreement, which is in effect for and between the city of Brookings and Daniel Bielfeldt at Old Sanctuary. So the first item in front of you is the transfer of the on-off sale malt license. All alcohol items do require a public hearing and action by the city council. And so if you so approved, the required documents will be sent to the South Dakota Department of Revenue for review and final license issuance. Staff recommends approval, and Daniel is in the audience this evening if you have any questions for him.
Thank you, Bonnie. Open the public hearing on this item. Is there any public comment? Here's your time, Dan, if you want to advertise a little bit. Public is now closed. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Does the council have any questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Collins?
Aye.
Duran? Aye. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Specker?
Aye.
Tilton Burn?
Aye.
Wendell?
Aye.
Avery?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Item 9E, public hearing and action on Resolution 22-055, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an operating agreement for an on-off sale wine license with Rabbit Rentals, LLC, DBA, Old Sanctuary, Daniel Bielfeldt, owner. Bonnie will present this item also.
Mayor, council members, and members of the public, this is the second of 3 items on tonight's agenda for the Old Sanctuary. This is the issuance and allowance of the city manager to enter into an operating agreement for a on-off wine license with Daniel Bielfeldt, Rabbit Rentals. This would allow the city manager to enter into the first 5 years of the 10-year agreement. There is a required 5-year midterm renewal, which will come back to the council in 5 years. If approved, these documents again will be sent to the South Dakota Department of Revenue for final review and license issuance. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Bonnie. Open the public hearing on this item. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, public hearing is now closed. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Does the council have any questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Duran? Aye. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Specker?
Aye.
Tilton Burn?
Aye.
Wendell?
Aye.
Avery?
Aye.
Collins?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 9F, action on an agreement between Rabbit Rentals, LLC, DBA Old Sanctuary, Daniel Bielfeldt, owner, the City of Brookings pertaining to the sale of alcoholic beverages. Bonnie will present this item.
Mayor, council members, and members of the public, this is the third and final item on tonight's agenda for the Old Sanctuary. This is an alcohol agreement between the City of Brookings and Daniel Bielfeldt, Rabbit Rentals. This agreement is separate from the alcohol licenses and the operating agreement and identifies additional requirements of the alcohol license holder. The Bielfeldts have worked hard to establish good rapport with the neighborhood, and staff supports the changes as noted in the marked agreement in the council packet. A summary of those changes would be a periodic review of the impact upon the residential neighborhood at the annual renewal of the operating agreement, a review of the alcohol agreement when the operating agreement is scheduled for renewal, so at the 5-year and the 10-year midpoints of that agreement, and a reminder when times of sales of alcohol products are permitted. So Sunday through Thursday, those sales would cease at 10 o'clock with events concluding by 11 o'clock. And Friday and Saturday, alcohol sales would cease at 11 p.m. with those events concluding by midnight. Staff does recommend approval.
Thank you, Bonnie. Entertain a motion to approve.
So move. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, does the council have any questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Niemeyer?
Aye.
Specker?
Aye.
Tilton Burn?
Aye.
Wendell?
Aye.
Avery?
Aye.
Collins?
Aye.
Duran? Aye.
Motion passes. Item 10A, action and resolution 22-058, a resolution authorizing the transfer of real property for economic development purposes. Mike Struck, our Community Development Director, will provide this item.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. The item before you tonight is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the appropriate documents to transfer a 2.35 acre parcel of property along 15th Street South and 7th Avenue South to the Brookings Economic Development Corporation, which in turn would transfer the property, sell the property to CD Properties Incorporated as part of the workforce housing project that we had multiple discussions about over the last several months. CD Properties was successful in their grant application to the South Dakota Housing Development Authority and received the first round of funds to complete 8 units. They have to get started on them this year and then complete them as quickly as possible. And then based upon that success, they would go back for a second round of funding to complete the additional 12 units on that site. What we're asking for tonight is to proceed forward with authorizing the execution of those documents to complete the land transfer. We are recommending that the transfer be done for no dollar amount to help with that, the city's contribution towards this project. And then we also had a request to consider on a $10,000 per unit basis as an additional financial commitment to help this project be even more successful. Through the South Dakota Housing Development Authority, they have deed restrictions that are put into place. They have to meet income guidelines. It's not, just to be clear, this is not targeted towards affordable housing, but more workforce housing. So it's 115% of the area median income. So they have to meet those guidelines. With the deed restrictions, it's a 10-year period of affordability. What that essentially means is the housing authority will place that deed restriction on there. So any title work that would come up would show that, the first buyer is limited based upon the formula that the housing authority has and how much they can sell that unit for. And the next buyer has to meet the income guidelines in order to purchase that. It is a requirement that it has to be owner occupied. These are owner occupied units. They are not to be rental, and that's also part of the deed restriction. With that, I would stand for any questions that you may have.
So moved.
Second.
And moved and second, is there any public comment on this item?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Tim Reed with the Brookings Economic Development Corporation. First of all, just want to let you know that the Economic Development Board has already acted and given me authority to execute these documents after you pass the resolution to get it accomplished. And so we're ready to do that. Second, a bit of a congratulations and thank you. I think you all know the issues that we're having with workforce housing and affordable housing. And this is a really great project. The VEDC board was very excited that we could help out with doing the transfer. And I think that a lot of hard work went into this, a lot of thought in how it should be done. And so thank you very much for doing this for the community.
All right. Seeing none, does the council have any questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Specker,
Aye.
Tiltonburn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Avery,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Duran, Niemeyer.
Aye. Motion passes. Now we have the city progress report. Our Assistant City Manager, Jake, will present this item.
To the council. Deputy City Clerk Deshawn Scott questioned my ability to drink water with a cup that didn't have a top. And she was right. I do not have that ability, apparently. So I didn't spill on anything important, just myself. We've accomplished a number of the administrative items to include the conditional use permit, cross parking agreement, and building permit. We've got a number of items coming up here in the future. Surface prep, site work, Northwestern gas line install, BMU power and transfer install, site concrete, asphalt, black dirt, upcoming work, more longer range. We've got framing, roofing, siding, and everything of that nature. If you drive by the site today, you may see most of the floor poured, but we are expecting that facility to be completed and open in January of 2023, so lots of work to be done in the coming months. Interchange continues to make great progress. A number of items have been completed over the last month. Water main installation on the eastern side of 34 is continuing. With the closure of 34th, we've got a number of next steps coming up here yet this year. The girders to be installed on the western side, worked at the intersection of 20th Street South and 22nd Avenue. We're anticipating that that road or that intersection will be closed in the middle of August. The substantial completion for this project is July of 2023, and everything continues on schedule. 15th and 7th continues there as well. As everyone can see on the screen, there's been a number of accomplishments there. You may note phase 2, we did work to extend storm sewer south to Remington Circle further down 7th Avenue. So that continues to work. We are looking at the next steps, which would be install remaining ramps, finish the sidewalk, topsoil, and steed, and finish installing the asphalt for that phase 2. That is expected to be completed in early August 2022 with a substantial completion date of actually August 5th. So very near the end of that project. Main Avenue and A Street South, this is the intersection where we've been replacing the concrete there. The work performed over the last month includes new water and sewer services installed, installation of base gravel, the concrete has been poured. Next steps, we're going to finish that concrete surface, curb and gutter, line painting, and then we do have asphalt patching and pave from A Street South from Main to Maderi to finish that project off. This one will also be done in the early part of August, so very early next month. Overlay project, you may notice, is occurring through several different sites throughout town. Jackrabbit has been reclaimed in manholes. There are a number of other roads that will be included within this project, including 14th Avenue, Maderi for a portion there, A Street South, A Street, and then Jackrabbit, we have to install ramps and pave. This will continue through the rest of the summer and complete in fall 2022. Our engineering staff is working very closely with South Dakota State University to ensure that the roads that are near the university will be completed in time for move-in. Our annual chip seal project is anticipated to begin next week. Staff is anticipating to release a press release detailing more information that yet this week. On the screen before you is the areas that we will focus on chip sealing for this upcoming year. Some things that the residents can expect is they'll be asked, there'll be parking prohibitions within those areas, and they'll be asked to reduce or limit their use of sprinklers, as that can cause issues with the adhesiveness of the chip to the road. So if that water gets into the road, that can cause adhesive issues and doesn't make the program as successful as it could be. We do recommend everyone see this link on the screen, our website /projects. This is that new capital projects site that we have launched, and that's where we're updating those regularly as the capital projects progress throughout this season. So if folks are wondering where the chip seal project is at or any of our other capital projects, I encourage them to check that site out, and they're able to see where we're at, what the next steps are, and when we'll be completed with those projects. We are going to host our second annual Household Hazardous Waste event this year. That is an opportunity to dispose of unwanted waste in a safe, environmentally responsible manner. The date for this year will be on August 27th. It will be held in the Swift Center parking lot from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. This is a free event for anyone in Brookings County to attend. We do ask, if you're able to, please provide a non-perishable food item that will go to the Brookings County Food Pantry. But again, if you're not able to do so, this is a free event. That is a simply requested donation. There are a number of items that are accepted in this event. We do have a wonderful webpage dedicated to this that shows all of the household items indoor that can be disposed, such as cleaners and different things of that nature, as well as your outdoor items that may include fertilizer or things that you may have stored around the garage. Library held a number of wonderful events this last month, one of them being the transportation fair, where a lot of our different city departments bring out our fun pieces of equipment and let kids and their adults, or kids and their parents, enjoy those pieces of equipment, chat, and talk to them. We do want to thank everyone who came out to that event. I did also hear from our street department and parks department, lots of great comments from the public appreciative of the cleanup from the derecho event, so that really meant a lot to the crew to hear the congratulations and thank yous from members of the public. There were 491 attendees at the transportation fair that was held on June 29th. We did hold the second annual pet parade as well. There were 30 pets enrolled this year. One of them being a turtle, as everyone can see. I believe that is Mrs. Turtle the Tortoise is the full name. And then there was a goat in there as well as many dogs. There were 172 attendees at the library pet parade. Parks and Recreation, number of activities that have been held over the last month. Community Games had 4 teams participate this year, estimate about 90 attendees there. The 51st Annual Brookings Arts Festival was held on July 9th and 10th. Buffalo Wild Wings baseball tournament brought 63 youth teams to the city, which was fantastic. And then the Fishback Classic Soccer Tournament brought 90 youth teams in this year. Not on my progress report, but I want to thank Chelsea Bakken for all the work she's done to help me put this presentation together and all the other great things that she does for the city. She's moving on to a wonderful opportunity. It's been a real pleasure to work with her and thank her for everything that she does for us and really took our entire marketing public relations campaign to another level. Huge shoes to fill. I'm not sure that anyone will be able to, but appreciative for all the work that she's done and really elevated the materials that we're able to give to the public to communicate in a transparent manner. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Jake. Council have any questions or comments? I too agree with you. Chelsea's done a wonderful job for us, and we hope for the best for future venture. Okay, upcoming meeting on the 9th of August. We have a couple wine and liquor renewals in the consent agenda. There's a proclamation for the first annual Ice Cream Social and Community Fair Day. We have no first readings at the moment, nor do we have contracts or change orders, but we do have second reading on the two items that we talked about this evening. No other further business. We will have an executive session in the next meeting, as we are tonight also. Does any other member of the council have a future item on the agenda that they'd like to have? Any comments or anything there? Okay, with that being said, we will be going into executive session. Enter an executive session as per South Dakota CL 1-25-2.3 for purposes of consulting with legal counsel or reviewing communications from legal counsel about proposed or pending litigation or contractual matters. And 1-25-2.5 for purposes of discussing marketing or pricing strategies by a board or commission of a business owned by the state or any of its political subdivisions, when public discussion may be harmful to the competitive position of the business. That being said, entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. Voice vote for this executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. I don't think we're going to do any business after this. We will directly adjourn as soon as the executive session is over. Thank you.